Do you realize how much that helps to get clients to sit down at your table and be spontaneous and get a reading? I think it does. Hey folks, hope you're doing well. It's the evening once more, and I'm going to talk today about why I like my client deck and what that actually means to me as a professional reader, because there are different versions of that for sure. I thought I'm going to also include in this video just some things that I usually don't talk about on YouTube for some reason or another. Let's just hang out for a bit. So let's first start with the client decks that I use at the store. It's a metaphysical store that I do readings at. I love doing that. I can't make it every week, though. I can't sometimes even make it twice a month, but I definitely try to keep that up at least twice a month. You guys probably know what's in here. It's a Toth Greenie, and in here is my Rider Waite Smith Centennial, or actually, it used to be my backup Rider Waite Smith Centennial deck, until I realized this is the deck that I want to read with for clients. I love it so much for myself. And you see, I have a version for myself, the original deck, and then this so-called backup. I made this altar cloth or tarot cloth for it. It's very easy with just the string, and you tie it around it. This one then turned into my deck for clients at the store. So, first of all, why do I need two of these? Yes, I am someone who likes to have backup decks of their favorite decks, so that's one. But then graduating, why do I think that's appropriate to say? Graduating this deck to client deck status. It's just this system, these images, I know them very well, obviously. It was my original first tarot deck, obviously, a tarot introduction for short readings at the store, because I'm only allowed, or that's the formula, to do 15-minute reading, 15-20 minutes, but I like to keep it going, keep the energy flowing. So usually it's 15 minutes with me. This is the deck, guys. I think at first I was using a different Rider Waite Smith, but I realized that I really vibe, I don't like that word, but I really connect with the dark muted colors, the fact that it looks like an old Pam A, and just all of this extra like texture, you see? Because in many other decks it's just a solid color, the backgrounds, and here we get all this texture, and as I said, the muted colors. And honestly, the Centennial to me is still the best version of the Rider Waite Smith that was ever published, ever, because all the lines are so clear. There's no muddled lines anywhere. It makes it very clear for me, the reader, but it also makes it very clear and appealing to the person getting the reading. The reason I went back, I'll talk to that about that in a second. The reason I went back to good old Rider Waite Smith is because in the short client readings, I cannot afford, basically, I do not have the time to explain the card fully, obviously, as I do. I could talk about one card for days without stopping. If it's Five of Swords in a pip deck, then I have so much more to explain about the card. Whereas, obviously, I explain the reading, everything, you know, I solve the puzzle basically for them, that of the cards that they pulled. They can already kind of see and feel what is happening, what I'm about to say, you know? I did get into the habit of pointing out the scary cards first and quickly telling them that death does not mean death, it's transformation, that the Ten of Swords is also a new beginning, and it's about, you know, cutting ties, for instance, those types of things. So the darker cards, the more negative looking cards, I point to those first to kind of soothe their nerves, because most of the time it is very exciting to get a reading. And when you don't know tarot, everything is kind of, what is this? And this is about me. You know, it's very personal time, obviously. Honestly, having to do that is the only downside to using this deck. Then there's another thing that I might want to have a deck that shows a little bit more diversity, but I can kind of forgive it because it's obviously a deck from 1909 and it's a classic by now. It's a traditional classic. So this is just the deck, and I like original decks. I like Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork. I like Pixie, same person, Pixie's font or her actual writing on here. I like these colors, the muted colors in this deck. And as I said, the texture and everything, it just draws you in more, or for me. And I have seen this same reaction in the clients that I meet face to face twice a month. And again, I wish it was more because I really love this work and I think I'm doing good. I'm pretty good at it. I always feel at the end of the day that it was a good day. I helped people. It was a helpful day, and I was able to, do this work not just as a means to make money, but also to connect to people and help them on their path, which is so humbling, amazing. And then here, sorry to say, I was too lazy to get the actual Toth Greenie that I was using for quite a few months for in-store tarot readings. So this is actually my own copy. This is the 83 copy as opposed to the 1978 copy. And I absolutely love this artwork, okay? And the majors and the quartz, I would say, very clear. And the word, right? It's not a keyword, it's a title, Lord of Happiness. All of that is very clear as well. It reads beautifully for clients, but here we go. This is the card I was looking for because I had the Five of Swords out so long for you in the Rider Waite Smith. Five of Swords, okay, the defeat. I have so much to explain to the other person, whether they do know tarot or not. Even in the case when they do know tarot, there's a small chance in the Netherlands that they actually are familiar with the Crowley deck. Some people are, I know. And of course there are tourists and everywhere and everything, people visiting or expats. But Dutchies usually they have not really taken the time to get to know the Toth deck, the Crowley deck. So I have a lot to explain in such a short amount of time, explaining what it says. When in comparison, the Five of Swords in the Rider Waite Smith, I criticize that deck, even though, as you know, I love it. It's my top 5. I criticize that deck for showing only one side of the possible meaning, okay? You don't have that with pip decks. In pip decks, the meaning happens in your head, in your system, in your feeling. And of course, that still is the case with scenic pips, illustrated pips. But I feel I connect more to the client, and that is how I do my job the best. That's how I feel I accomplish more with the person in front of me. And again, I do not want to criticize the Toth deck. It's a masterpiece. But for short readings, I say. And, maybe also the type of reader that I actually am, realize that. But mostly for short readings, scenic pips, kind of the way to go. And of course, everybody works in their own way. I'm not saying this is better. I'm just saying that I have seen from experience that this works better. I still explain the card, as I said, but they can immediately identify with the people on the images depicted in the cards. Whereas here, again, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful. There's so much symbolism, but first of all, I don't have time to go through the whole symbolism of each and every card. Same with Rider Waite Smith. Doesn't matter what type of deck. You never have time to do that, really, even in the longer readings, because you got to, get to the actual message. You're not there to explain the tree of life, for instance. I mean, maybe for some readings, though. I think I made myself clear. This is why I kind of retired the other deck, but anyway, the Toth deck to do in-store readings with. Not that I didn't enjoy it. Sometimes I bring my small Dutch Toth deck with me. I often bring an extra deck that day just to have an extra companion or to have something to look at and shuffle and do quick reading for myself when there happens to be a gap between two readings. And yeah, it kind of makes me, of course, want to work with that deck for the clients, but I always stick to the Rider Waite Smith still, because that is a very clear deck, and I'm very secure in giving these readings with that deck. As I said, it's always a good reading. You know what I mean? There's really a true foundation and a connection and a positive kind of like opening portals reaction with the clients, basically, because they immediately see something in the card. Even if the card isn't clear to them, it happens. Maybe Four of Cups, for instance. It can be somebody kind of pouting. It can be somebody being very unfulfilled in life. Or it can look like somebody who's meditating, being alone and enjoying their time alone. It just depends on their view and where they are at the moment. It might still be a bit unclear, but still there's always that moment of recognition. So to me, that deck is stronger. Again, I must emphasize, for short readings. So yeah, those are my two client decks. And then, of course, there's the reason why I love this specific pack of cards. This is the deck that I allow all of these people to touch. So there's their energy in it, okay? Whereas the deck I have for me, I have done client readings with that deck, even face-to-face. People have touched the deck, but my energy is infused into it. And of course, my energy is in this copy as well, except that this deck has this different purpose. Being a little bit of an animist, I really like that. I really like the feel of this copy as well, because it's different. It has a different purpose in my life. It's more open, louder, it's less judgmental. And of course, when I use this one, I'm in work mode, right? So I know that I have to explain using words. I have to express using words what the meanings are and basically what the message is of all the cards combined. So I'm always in this mode where I have to explain in my view perfectly what the message is for the client, obviously. But what I'm trying to say is that it's different with the version that I have just for me right now, that I know, that I kind of grew up with, that I hold, that I have in my hands more often. I don't often have to voice the meanings, the message that the cards give, because I'm doing readings from me, and that's often silent work. Of course, sometimes there's a outburst like, keep it up. Wait, I was referring to this one. Keep it up, yes, amazing work. Sometimes you got to hype yourself up. But most of the time it's silent reading, or you kind of just journal. I kind of just journal about the message. And I appreciate that very much as well. Yeah, thing is, I stick to this one because, of course, it might change, right? I might change back to Toth or anything else, but it's just such a staple, and it's a traditional deck. It's a very clear system, And still there's room for intuition, and even for somebody who does not know the tarot at all, they can still see themselves in the cards. They can still project themselves, their story in there, and they recognize something. I realized that that was very important for me. Yeah. So that's why I love my client decks, basically. Now on Patreon, I do readings as well. And funnily enough, I never reach for my client version for those readings. And of course, Patreon, that would be online readings. I use any deck by now. I still stick to my top 5, but there are some weird ones in there as well. But I really, as I said, I use any deck in my collection. I don't think there's really a deck that I don't read with, apart from Kazanlar and Mythic Tarot. I think those are the only two that I have not felt comfortable enough, basically, to use for other people. But all my other decks, no exceptions, except for those two, good decks for other people. I want to hear about other professional tarot readers out there. To me, it's not about having a deck for me and having a client deck. The client, how do I say that? The difference does not exist in that I read for other people. The difference exists to me in that the other people get to touch the cards and infuse the cards with their energy. I'm completely comfortable with reading with my own personal decks for others online. So my patrons, they never get the client decks, the designated client decks, even though I like them, right? They always get the decks that I have in my personal collection, that I read with for me, that I chose because they inspired me in different ways, you know? And it's really fun. I get a lot of feedback from my patrons who receive the readings, the personal readings. For instance, last time I was reading with Gothic Tarot, and I got a message back about how fun it is to see that deck in action and how the reading just totally flowed. It's amazing. It's really great. It's really great feeling as a professional tarot reader to get that feedback, you know, because it's just the freedom to just explore. You guys know I love that word. At least my patrons know I love that word. Explore. I'm a spiritual explorer, and so are you. It's just about exploring all of these decks. And I still don't think that I have a lot of decks. Different opinions out there, I know. I had a friend ask me how many decks I had, and I answered approximately, because I always forget, but her mouth really dropped to the floor. Again, this has happened multiple times with different friends, and at a point when I had only 20 decks, same reaction. How can you have that many? That's crazy. And I had to explain to her, I agree, that is crazy, but when you read tarot as much as I do, 20 isn't that many decks. Plus, have you seen everybody online? It's like, I don't want to compare, obviously, but I love my core collection, and it still feels, even though the collection is slowly growing, I still like to cull here and there, but it is growing. I still consider it a good balanced collection that fits me. It doesn't feel like too much. I don't get overwhelmed by what I have now. So that's great news, right? But yeah, it's great to explore that freedom and to just read with any deck for clients. Now, obviously, I could just let go and use Triunfo della Luna or Crow's Magic Tarot for client readings at the store. But then there's this other thing that maybe some people don't consider, but I always have. This deck, if you love it or hate it, I don't care, is iconic. You can't deny it. The people who don't know tarot, they still know some images from this deck because it's everywhere. This is the tarot deck. This is where so many other tarot decks are based off of. Rider Waite Smith based. And this is the original one, in my opinion, the best one. So, do you realize how much that helps to get clients to sit down at your table and be spontaneous and get a reading? I think it does. I never heard anybody complain if I pull out a weird deck. But at the store, it's not that I don't feel comfortable, it's just that I lean into its celebrity status. I am that tarot reader, right? This is just who I am. Always. I'll always be the magical, crazy tarot lady. And enjoying every second of it. At the store, I have the deck that they know. These are tarot cards, no doubt about it. There are other readers, and I'm sure they do well as well. I don't know them actually. But there are other readers who use, for instance, oracle cards. It's nice, you guys know oracle isn't necessarily my thing, but it's not as, to me at least, maybe it's me, right? It's not as iconic as tarot cards, especially this deck. So just that is a form maybe of money magic, attraction, okay, manifesting those clients, because I'm kind of like not luring them in, but it's an open door type of deck because of the scenic pips, but then also because of its status, because it's so known. And it is so good. I think it is so good. And that is absolutely not to say whatever, English, that the Crowley deck isn't iconic because, as I said, it's a masterpiece, but it's less known. I think maybe I would enjoy reading with Crow's Magic or Triunfo de la Luna, my two examples of today, apparently. I think I would enjoy reading at the store less with those decks. It's because it's a bit of glamour magic too. I am stepping into that role of the tarot reader. So it's like the deck is iconic, and then because of that, by default, so am I. I become the tarot it girl. Is not to say, oh, I'm so good, I'm so much better than, for instance, the oracle readers. Absolutely not, because everybody does their own thing, and this is my strength. And bringing this deck to the store to do readings all day, help people, connect people, have fun with people, console people, everything, it makes me a better reader. It makes me step into that role, and it allows me to, bring in those clients, because we have 5 hours at the store, okay? And that can feel either really short or really long. And I like to have quick turnover. I like to meet as many people as I can during those 5 hours and give them the reading that was meant for them that day, to give them the best reading that I can give them. And so I get a lot of satisfaction out of that. I think that this iconic deck helps me reach that, basically. I don't know. As I said, I never heard online, why are you using this weird deck? But I have heard countless times, these cards are so beautiful, because the client is saying, I know this deck, I even have this deck maybe, but they have never seen, most of them, the Centennial version. And then I get a compliment. I mean, the deck gets a compliment, obviously, because of the muted colors, because of the clarity, because it looks old and it's gorgeous and the backs are nice. It's just, it all counts. That's what I think. I think it all counts. So yeah, it's glamour magic because I become that tarot reader, and I enjoy the hell out of it, because yes, that is a part of me. And then doing readings at the store, man, it's always such a magical experience, always. Even if it's a slow day, that happens. I still, it's like a bit of a magical infusion. It's a bit of my magic dose. I come out of it, of course, completely tired, like a tarot hangover sometimes, and I really have to be a hermit basically for a couple of hours. But I always feel, without exception, that I have become a better reader that day. Having short readings, right? So there still is in depth, but it's different. It's just a different energy that you carry throughout the reading. You really have to know this is the beginning, middle part, end. That's it. You have to be really kind of strict there. But still, you have fun, you connect, you talk, it's very meaningful. Because it's so quick and you talk a lot and you see different things and even some amazing insights from people, right? The clients about the cards. I write those down. So inspiring. I come out of it every time a better reader. After having done a day of tarot readings at the store, I feel more fluent in giving readings. And I consider myself fluent, right? Because I do readings all the time for myself, for others, clients. But somehow that human face to face, person to person connection really works. Just, it works its magic, it works well, and it works on, I think for me personally, it has to do with simply finding the words because, or even strengthening my voice because I always have problems. My whole life, I've had issues with my throat, my voice, even self expression. I was basically a mute for years about being real and honest. So there's a lot that kind of loosens up and just starts to flow. And I become more secure of myself and I have my own, methods of being the secure reader there because this is my realm. For sure, also, it it heals and it's like a muscle that you train, right? And maybe for me, literally, it's actually a muscle that I train to be able to talk for so long and say exactly what I have to say, make an impact, and all of that. And again, also finding the words, finding the connections. When you're tarot brained, when I say that, that's what I'm talking about. Amongst, of course, just preferring tarot over other systems or other types of cartomancy or divination methods. Yeah, so there's a lot that just works for me about that. Also, just to be honest, the space is amazing. And I love the people who set up that store. They are lovely. I'm so happy for them that their store is working so well. They're opening new stores all across the Netherlands, and I'm so happy for them, definitely. And I've done many openings of their new stores as the tarot reader of the day. Yeah, I think actually the last opening, that's when I brought my Toth and my Rider Waite Smith. That's when I decided to go back to Rider Waite Smith. Because just to explain, I think I skipped over this part. Started off using Rider Waite Smith decks in the store, and then I switched to Toth for a while, and I realized even though it was magical, it's a very potent, strong, powerful deck, and people got it, it made me less comfortable because of all of the extra explanation that I felt I had to do. So basically, I was working so much harder, and it the over explaining took away my time. Basically, before with Toth, I had to like explain a lot, use a lot of words, and then that took up so much time that I couldn't do I felt at least that I didn't have time left to actually truly connect to the other person before me. I think that was it. I was much more into the cards, and I am definitely. I just dive in, you know. That's why I have a notebook to write down the question if they have one, because I get into the cards and then I have to go like, oh wait, you had a question. Okay, yes, this is what I mean, right? I kind of just lose it, but it still works. It's great. I have my system. I'm organized. But yeah, Rider Waite Smith, I'm much more with the person, and Toth, I was much more with the cards. I think we got there. So I have some other things that I want to say, but this video got really long and I had no idea I had so much to say about this topic. I do want to, because you're here, share with you what I do on Patreon, because I said I do client readings on Patreon. So here's the deal. I have different tiers. I named them all after rock concert things. So the first tier is a very low tier, opening act. I have been thinking about maybe kind of canceling that tier, merging it with the next one. But anyway, opening act is a one card reading. So no question, and it's just for the collective that is my patron. So one card reading, 15 minutes. And I use any deck. Then the second tier is headliner tier, and that is when I just make a video. I mean, I'm so bad at explaining this right now, but I think it's always good and fun, and it can be about tarot, can be about magic, or what's on my mind. I feel there's always in my mind there should be not a teaching necessarily, but sharing experience aspect in that video. I think that's important to keep in headliner tier. Then the third tier is the after party, because after party is often the best of any concert, okay? No matter how good the concert was. You get to meet the people, everything. Okay, so getting off track. After party tier is when I taught, it changed, okay, throughout the years, but right now it's mostly I share magic and then I share about my experiences with my deity. So, very personal stuff to me, but yeah, I'm getting some great reactions, great feedback. It's cool. Then after that, I have the VIP lounge, and that tier I put a maximum amount of patrons on there. All the spots are filled, but that is where you would get your monthly 15-20 minute reading, and that is personalized. So actually right now the people tend to not have questions. I sometimes get emails back, very nice, but you don't have to send me a question. You just get your kind of personal checkup every month, and I send that video to your inbox. Then I have Rush the Stage, maximum of 2 spots, both filled. And that is where I either talk to you live for an hour every month and we do a reading, we hang out, and baby, I love you, or I send you your reading. So it really just depends on the preference of these folks. And of course, there's always the option of just emailing me and getting your reading, once or twice. But these are the subscriptions that I have over on Patreon. And I mean, you never know if you want one of the reading tiers. Check it out every so often. Maybe a spot is opening up. But I must say, the people who are there have been there for quite a while. So really grateful. I feel like I found, my crowd. I'm really appreciative of that. So thank you so much to all my patrons. Definitely, you definitely make it meaningful, give me purpose, and because that's just the way it is. And also, it makes doing this, even on YouTube where I share with everybody, makes it easier. It really does make a difference, your donations every month. That's really just amazing that this is a thing. Just check out the Patreon. There's texts, there's an explanation of what every tier is, and I think it's pretty up to date still. Also, of course, I want to thank you guys. You don't have to be a patron for me to be thankful for you. I'm thankful for every single subscriber. So, you know what? Big thanks to you. You can support financially on Patreon. You can support by liking and commenting and sharing on YouTube. You can support by playing the game And I'm not going to explain it this time, but I'm choosing the word guidance, obviously, for my deck that came out on Make Playing Cards, Magical Guidance cards. That's another way to support. Get a deck. There are 3 different versions, and I am shamelessly plugging that creation. It took me a year to make, and I'm very proud. And it makes me so happy to see that people are actually buying my decks. So thank you. Have a wonderful day, evening, night, whatever. You go party, paint the town red. I'll see you all next week, as always. Much love.